let me just set the scene, right? Because I also understand the context view of the world we're in right now is crazy. Anthropic just filed confidentially. Altimeter led that round. I get that there's a limit to what you can say about that. But you're also on the cap table of OpenAI, SpaceX. This isn't also about IPOs in isolation. Alphabet came out and upsized an $84 billion now equity offering. So actually my question to you right now is, what is the capital market telling you about the state of the world? Is that a good place to start?
That's a great place to start. Thank you for having me, Ed, Caroline. It's lovely to be here. I think at the highest level, I think you nailed it. It's like AI has gone from being a technology product cycle to one of the largest capital formation cycles, right? On one side, you've got the picks and shovels. This is the compute, memory, optics, networking. You go down the list. They are selling these products to let's call them the miners. These are the labs. Google just raised $84 billion. OpenAI has a historic raise, $122 billion. Anthropic, of course. And, you look at the same week, NVIDIA just announced an $80 billion stock buyback program. SK Hynix, same thing, $8 billion of stock retired with more dividends coming.
Those are sort of contradictions in the function of the market. They're opposite.
And that's the line that I wanted to highlight. On one side, you've got the folks who are helping you scale AI. These are receiving the Capex. The others who are spending the Capex. And I think that's the line. That's the biggest mental model I want to leave the folks with, which is, as you look at these businesses, are you on the side of receiving the Capex, which would be the compute layer, the energy layer, the memory layer, the networking layer, or are you on the side of spending? And I think that's the biggest divide in AI right now.
But at the moment, we have seen rocket ship when it comes to AI infrastructure and those who've been receiving all the capital expenditure.
Yeah.
And then people just so desirous to help fund those that are going to be out there and raising it, whether it be OpenAI, whether it be SpaceX, whether it be Anthropic, whether it be Google, Alphabet. Is there enough room for all of these large language models? There's always been this argument that they'll be commoditized. When you're sat thinking about being in Grok AI and SpaceX and at the same time OpenAI and Anthropic, should you be?
I think there's this narrative of companies doing a binary thing. Or you're the consumer AI company, or you're the enterprise AI company, or you're the space AI company. I think the reality is a lot more multifaceted, right? Let's take OpenAI, for example. I think the product, the company's mission is getting AI to the market holistically across consumer. You've got just under 1 billion users on ChatGPT. On enterprise, they've now got 5 million Codex users that is doing really well. And then a long tail of other bets with hardware, with robotics, with obviously the Frontier Enterprise offering. SpaceX, which is, the two largest markets on the planet, space and AI. And so I think
and it's selling compute.
And now they're selling compute. Elon Web Services.
Can I actually ask you about that? There's so many directions we could go, but the space business of launching Starlink, $2 trillion in the TAM, get it. Enterprise AI, you've kind of answered that. But stealthily in there, they are becoming a hyperscaler, right? If you think about the Anthropic arrangement, they're almost hedging by saying, in the interim, we're really good at building data center.
Well, I would say it's the Switzerland, right? It's a Switzerland approach. For a long time.
You're not the first person to say that to me this
week. For the longest time, we were holding our breath for, hey, you did this deal with Cursor. And the big question was, well, a lot of Cursor revenues come from the great Anthropic models. Then they got Anthropic on the platform. Then obviously they're building their own models. And so I think of the XAI business as the Switzerland business. We're now selling compute. We will sell models. We'll have a coding product. We'll have other products down the line on consumer, etc. And again, it's a holistic approach. And that's why the TAM is so large.
Look, we love in the media and more broadly to be putting Anthropic and OpenAI in some race against each other. But do you have, as a private market investor, any pause that maybe there isn't going to be the demand for this wall of public offerings, that in many ways are going to be liquidity to your Altimeter?
Look, I think for the longest time, we've had a large part of the market finding ways to get access to the biggest super cycle in AI right now. And I think that moment has arrived. IPOs are cyclical, as we know. The last big cycle was 4 or 5 years ago in 2021. And based on everything we know, there's a lot of demand for these products as they go out. In terms of the demand for the capabilities, look, I think in December last year, we crossed a level of capability with coding models in Opus 4.5 that has pushed it to the next frontier. On consumer, as everybody's already experienced. And then yet to be proven is robotics, manufacturing, the hardware device that OpenAI is working on, and others. So a lot more to come, and I think more participation is better for us.
You're teaching at Stanford, and you've kindly invited me to come and check out a class, and I will. And one of the questions that you pose in a series of like guest speakers, right? You know everyone in industry and your fellow investors on the cap table. You ask them like, what's one idea you're long, one idea you're short. I explain that, but why do you think that's a useful mechanism for understanding the world?
Well, I like to hold the speakers to what they say. I'm going to ask them the question next year and have a scorecard of what happened to their long-short picks. It's my favorite game to play with founders. I learn a lot as founders pick their most optimistic idea, their most bearish idea. And I'll give you the theme. The theme in this class was more than half of the speakers were long let's call them the picks and shovels providers.
Interesting.
Compute, most common theme. Energy was the second most common theme. That is ultimately the bottleneck at scale. The most common theme on the short side was folks who are not innovating, incumbents who are not innovating. It's a fun time and good to bring the conversation back.
Are you short, or what are you not looking at in the startup space as you're thinking about a wall of liquidity coming to Altimeter? What would you not like to invest in very quickly?
Well, I'm an optimist by trade, by profession, in my blood. So I'm very optimistic on a lot of things going on. I think the simple mental model that I have is if there's a business that gets hurt by the scaling laws. What are the scaling laws?
Yeah.
The scaling laws are if you provide more compute, more resources, more data, more algorithms, intelligence goes higher. If you're a business that is hurt by this empirical observation that intelligence is going to go up, that's a tough place to be because we believe intelligence is going to go up a lot.